Picture this. One country just did something that's never happened in tourism history. Over 100 million people crossed its borders in a single year. That's more than the population of Germany. And here's the wild part. Half this list just got reshuffled. So if you think you've got this figured out, you don't. Stick with me. By number 1, you'll know exactly who's winning right now. Today, we're counting down the 12 most visited countries on Earth right now. These numbers come straight from official tourism boards, not some random list. Let's start at the bottom. Number 12, China, and the real number here is messier than most lists let on. The most commonly cited figure for international visitors lands around 32 million a year. Before 2020, though, China sat comfortably in the global top 4. It still hasn't climbed back to that tier, even as neighbors like Japan and Germany clawed their way back onto this list. Walk through the Forbidden City at sunrise, though, and none of that math matters. The scale of the place just swallows you whole. Stand under the Great Wall at Badaling and watch it vanish into fog in both directions, and you understand why this country used to rank so much higher. China's climbing back. It's just climbing slower than almost anyone else here. Ordering food with zero Mandarin and a lot of hopeful pointing is basically its own sport. Independent travel here takes patience, but the infrastructure keeps catching up fast. And right next door, the pace picks up immediately. Number 11, Thailand. 35.5 million visitors, and every one of them eats something incredible within the first hour. Bangkok moves on a frequency all its own. Street vendors flipping pad krapao at 2 a.m., tuk-tuks weaving through traffic like the rules are optional, and a nightlife scene that does not understand the concept of closing time. Head north to Chiang Mai and the whole country exhales. Cooler air, slower mornings, temples tucked into hillsides. Pick your island carefully, though. The southern ones each run a totally different vibe. But the real reason Thailand keeps pulling crowds isn't the beaches, it's how far your money stretches here. And that leads straight into the next spot. Number 10, Greece. 36 million visitors, all chasing the same thing. Ancient history wrapped in Mediterranean blue. Athens still stops people mid-sentence. The Acropolis has been photographed 1 billion times and somehow still hits different in person. Santorini handles the crowds with more grace than you'd expect from a cliff-top village built for 1/10 of the people showing up now. Mykonos isn't interested in grace. It parties until sunrise and commits fully. Skip the famous names entirely, though, and there's a quieter, cheaper Greece waiting on islands that never make anyone's feed. Grilled octopus and a glass of ouzo as the sun drops explains why people keep coming back decade after decade. But the next country on this list just had the biggest single-year jump of anyone here. Number 9, Japan. And this is the real shocker on the entire list. Visitor numbers hit 36.9 million, a 47% jump in a single year. That surge was enough to make Japan Asia's most visited country for the first time this recovery cycle, leapfrogging both Thailand and China. A weak currency made the whole country suddenly affordable, and travelers noticed fast. Stand in Shibuya Crossing during rush hour, and you'll feel completely invisible in the best possible way. Thousands of people moving like clockwork, total order. Zero chaos. Kyoto, by contrast, is all slow mornings, temple bells, and streets that feel frozen a few centuries back. Slip into a hot spring after a long day of walking, and every sore muscle quietly forgives you. And just like that, you're already planning the return trip before you've even left. Number 8, Germany, pulling close to 40 million visitors a year, and that number means something extra this time. Germany clawed its way back into the global top 10 after dropping out of it during the pandemic years. Bavaria does most of the heavy lifting. Fairy tale castles, alpine scenery, Berlin pulses on an entirely different frequency. History sits close to the surface here. Walking the city feels heavy and educational at once. Christmas markets in Nuremberg and Cologne pull crowds from across the entire continent every winter. And the rail system makes hopping between wildly different regions stupidly easy. Number 7. The United Kingdom. And London soaks up the bulk of nearly 40 million visitors with what can only be described as mild indifference. The historical checklist covers serious ground in a tight area, but the food scene and neighborhood character are what actually earn the longer stays. Scotland makes its own strong case for pulling people north. Edinburgh's castle skyline against the Highlands' raw landscape barely shares any DNA with the London circuit. The Cotswolds and Welsh coastline add even more range for anyone willing to push past the obvious stops. A proper fry-up the morning after a rough night out fixes everything, rain or no rain. And rain is non-negotiable here, so pack a real umbrella. Number 6. Mexico. 45 million visitors, and still climbing. Beach resorts along the Yucatan and Pacific coasts pull in enormous crowds, while colonial cities like Oaxaca and Guanajuato draw travelers chasing history and architecture no resort strip can match. The Mayan ruins at Chichen Itza and Tulum add serious archaeological weight to the trip. Street tacos al pastor, carved straight off the spit at midnight, might be the single best $5 you'll ever spend traveling. But Mexico City is the real plot twist. Most people treat it as a quick stopover before the coast, and that's a mistake. World-class museums, food markets that run for blocks, neighborhoods each with their own distinct personality. This capital earns several days minimum, not a layover. Number 5. Italy. Almost 58 million visitors, and the country basically cracked some universal travel code. Rome, Florence, and Venice collect tourists efficiently, and the sheer art density alone justifies the crowds. The Vatican museums hold more cultural weight per square foot than most entire countries manage within their borders. And that's before the food conversation even starts. Neapolitan pizza, Bolognese ragu, Sicilian street food, all from one country, which honestly feels a little unfair to everyone else. The Amalfi Coast and Tuscan Hills pile on from there, and even the towns nobody plans for, Lucca, Orvieto, Matera, end up stealing the trip. Venice has even started capping day trippers just to manage the crowds. Number 4. Turkey. 60.6 million visitors, and this is the upset of the entire list. Turkey didn't just climb the rankings this year. It passed Italy outright, something that hasn't happened in years. Istanbul straddles 2 continents and packs the Hagia Sophia, the Grand Bazaar, and the Bosphorus into one walkable core. Add a Galata Tower climb and some aggressive bargaining at the bazaar, and you've got a full day before lunch even happens. Fair warning, the food scene runs deep enough to derail even the most disciplined schedule. Then Cappadocia shows up and does something nothing else on this list can touch. Hot air balloons drifting over a volcanic landscape of fairy chimneys and ancient cave dwellings at sunrise. Number 3. The United States. 72.4 million international visitors, and most of them only scratch the surface of what's actually here. New York, LA, and Chicago handle most of the attention, but the geographic range turns one country into something closer to a continental expedition. National parks alone are practically their own travel category. Alaskan wilderness, Utah's canyon country, and Hawaiian volcanic landscapes all under one flag. New Orleans shares zero DNA with Seattle, and Santa Fe operates by its own rules entirely, nothing like Miami. Rural Montana might as well be a different planet from Manhattan. Tourism here did cool off some in the back half of this past year, but the numbers are still massive and the range is still unmatched. Number 2, Spain. 93.8 million visitors in the official 2024 count, and this country didn't slow down from there. Early 2025 numbers already have Spain past 96 million, narrowing the gap with France, and a few longer-range forecasts even have Spain potentially catching up by 2040. Barcelona, Madrid, and Seville form the backbone of most trips, each working off totally distinct architecture, food culture, and a dinner schedule that treats anything before 9 p.m. as an adorable tourist mistake worth gently correcting. The Balearic Islands and Costa del Sol are absolutely packed, sun-soaked bodies meeting clear blue Mediterranean water at scale. High-speed rail makes city hopping fast and ridiculously affordable. Number 1, France, 102 million visitors in 2024, the first country in history to ever cross the 100 million mark in a single year. And 2025 didn't slow it down. France held on to the top spot again, with tourism revenue up roughly 9% on an already record year. Paris does most of the heavy lifting. Art, food, architecture, and atmosphere in quantities that justify the crowds, the lines. But the rest of the country quietly outdoes the capital at every turn. Provence's hilltop villages, the Loire Valley's chateau circuit, the French Riviera. A fresh croissant from a corner bakery, eaten standing up because you couldn't wait the extra 2 minutes, costs about €1 and might be the best €1 purchase on earth. And France treats food with a level of national seriousness that makes every meal feel like participation in something much bigger than lunch.